Hello, my dear boys and girls of Class 8. I'm Khondokar Noshin Islam, lecturer in botany at Rajukuttura Model College. I hope and wish that by the grace of Almighty, you all are safe and sound and being productive at home. Here I am today to discuss with you about chapter 3, which we could not complete before the college went off. This chapter is about diffusion, osmosis, and absorption. In today's lecture, we're going to discuss about lesson 5, 6, and 7. So lesson 5 is about the absorption of water and mineral salts. So first question is, what is absorption? It is the process by which living cells of the plant body intake water and mineral salt dissolved in the water. So now the question comes, why does plant absorb water and mineral salts? And the answer is photosynthesis. Yes, one of the most important physiological processes taking place in plant body is photosynthesis, where in the presence of sunlight, green plants, meaning the plants containing chloroplast, produces food material, that is glucose, which is the source of energy for all the living beings. Here is an interesting diagram describing the process of photosynthesis. So a leaf, green portion of plant, that means leaf, is the place where photosynthesis takes place. So during photosynthesis, plant absorbs sunlight and carbon dioxide from the environment, and it also absorbs water and mineral salts from the soil, and they come into the leaf, and then the carbon dioxide and the water reacts with each other in the presence of sunlight and different mineral salts, and produces glucose, and as well as produces oxygen, which is released back into the environment. So as photosynthesis plays a significant role in the survival of all the living organisms, and water and mineral salts are necessary for this process, therefore absorption of water and mineral salts are also of significance in plants life, right? Okay, so next we're going to discuss about the portion or part of plant that takes part in absorption, and that is the root. Root is the part of the plant which develops underground and helps the plant anchor firmly into the soil. Root not only makes the base of the plant, but also helps the plant to survive by ensuring continuous supply of water and minerals, which are mandatory for its growth and development. Next, here is a diagram which shows different parts of a root. This is the root. So we're going to start with the apex. The apical portion or the apex of the root is covered by structure which is known as root cap. Root cap not only provides protection but also secretes mucilage. Mucilage is a sticky substance which is necessary so that the plant can make its way through the soil. Then above the root cap you can see that there is a root growth region. This small region is known as root growth region. This region is made up of meristematic cells. Meristematic cells are the cells that are capable of dividing themselves. So because as they divide themselves, the root increases in length and size, right? Then above the root growth region you can see that there is a root hair region. This region is known as root hair region. Here you can see that a number of root hair is present. To be precisely speaking, root hair is the part that is responsible for the absorption of water. Okay, so next we're going to discuss about the process by which plant absorbs water from the soil. First of all, the root hair absorbs water through imbibition. Okay, so imbibition is the process by which colloidal substances such as cellulose, starch, etc., they absorbs water. So when cellulose is the primary material for cell wall. So the cell wall of the root hair absorbs water through imbibition. Then the absorbed water comes in contact with the semi-permeable plasma membrane below the cell wall. I'm sure you are already aware that membrane can be of three types, right? First is impermeable, then there is semi-permeable, then there is permeable membrane. Impermeable membrane does not allow the passage of any sort of through semi-permeable membrane. Solvent can pass but no solute can pass, right? Okay, then here is something that you need to understand, that the central solution of the root hair, that means the cell sap present in between the root hair, and the concentration of that sap is higher than that of its environment. So I'm going to give you an example so that you can understand it better. Suppose I'm taking a spoon of sugar and then I'm putting it in a glass of water, and I'm putting the same amount of sugar in a jug of water which contains much more water than the glass. So now you tell me, now if you think carefully, the concentration, in which solution the concentration will be higher? Of course in the glass, right? Because the amount of solvent is less in the glass in comparison to the jug. So similarly, the concentration of the central solution of the root hair is higher than that of its environment, and therefore osmosis will occur. So now the question is, what is osmosis? We know that if two differently concentrated solution, right, two differently concentrated solution containing the same solvent are separated by a semi-permeable membrane, then the solvent tends to move from its higher concentration to its lower concentration, and this process is known as osmosis. So now we are saying that the solution inside the root hair, concentration of the solution inside the root hair is higher than its outside environment, and therefore water will enter into the root hair through osmosis, right? And as a result, the concentration of the cell sap from the outer membrane to the center of the root cells becomes unequal, right? Consequently, due to intercellular osmosis, that means cell to cell osmosis, right, water flows from one cell to another. When one cell will absorb water, then the concentration of the cell sap inside the cell will automatically become lower, right? Concentration will become lower than to its adjacent cell, and therefore water will enter into the adjacent cell through osmosis. This is known as endosmosis or intercellular osmosis, right? And finally, the water will reach to the vessel of the xylem. Okay, so xylem is a vascular tissue or conducting tissue that is responsible for water conduction or transportation inside the plant cells. Xylem is made up of 4 types of cells. There is trachea, vessel, xylem fiber, and xylem parenchyma, right? Among these, vessel is directly related to the water transportation. So when through this cell to cell osmosis water reaches to the vessel of the xylem, then from there water directly reaches to the leaf. Why leaf? Because it is the place where photosynthesis will take place and where water is required, right? Okay, so next we're going to understand, there is a picture showing how water absorption occurs through root hair. So this is the root hair which is deeply penetrated inside the soil. These are the soil particles, right? These are the empty spaces between the soil particles that are filled with water. So here you're going to be familiar with a term called capillary water. So the water that present in between, that remain present between soil particles, is known as capillary water. Okay, so from this water from through osmosis, water will enter into the root hair, right? Next picture here shows the absorption of water by root cell through osmosis. So from our previous diagram, we understood how water enters into the root hair. Then from root hair, it will go into the adjacent cell through endosmosis. Then from there to its adjacent cell, and thus from through cell to cell osmosis, water will come near the pericycle, endodermis, where passage cells are present. Passage cells allow the movement of water, and from there water will enter into the xylem, right? This is the xylem from where water will get directly to the leaf so that it can take part in the photosynthesis. Okay, so next we're going to discuss about the absorption of mineral salt from the soil and how does plant do that. Plant absorbs a good deal of mineral salt from the soil for the development and physiological need. The mineral salt does not remain independently, they remain as a solution. That means they are the solute and water is with this capillary water, it is the solvent, and they form a solution in the soil. Although it remain as a solute with the capillary water, but the absorption process of water and mineral salts are absolutely different, and there is no relation between these two processes. Next, this is the most important point, that plant cannot absorb mineral salts in whole. It needs to be differentiated into ion form so that plants can absorb it. That means plant cannot absorb, for example, sodium chloride. Plant cannot absorb it in the form of sodium chloride. First of all, it needs to break down and form sodium and chloride ion, and only then plant can absorb this. Okay, then we're going to discuss about the types of salt absorption processes. The salt absorption process can be divided into two types. First is active absorption, where a metabolic energy is required, and then is inactive absorption, where no metabolic energy is required. Next topic is very important, which is the differences between active and inactive absorption. So active absorption involves expenditure of metabolic energy, which you got to know before, which is not required during passive or inactive absorption, right? So during active absorption, the movement of molecules or ions takes place against a concentration gradient. This point is to be explained a bit. You know that any substance, the ions, in case of ions, it has a tendency to move from its higher concentration to its lower concentration, but during active absorption, these absorption takes place against the concentration gradient. That means from lower concentration to higher concentration absorption occurs. But in case of passive absorption, the movement of molecules takes place along the concentration gradient, and because of which in case of passive absorption or inactive absorption, no metabolic energy is required. But as the absorption is taking place against concentration gradient, therefore during active absorption energy is required. Okay, so during active absorption, the movement is usually unidirectional, but in case of passive absorption, the movement is reversible. Active absorption usually results in the accumulation of ions. Ions are accumulated, right? But passive absorption or inactive absorption results in an equilibrium of the molecules on both sides of the membrane. Okay, then sometimes during active absorption carrier is required, but in case of passive absorption, no carrier is required. Next we're going to move forward with lesson 6, which is transpiration. So what is transpiration? Transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapor through evaporation. Evaporation is the process where water turns into vapor, right? Through evaporation from the moist surface of the internal tissues of the aerial parts. Means the parts that are directly associated with the ear, right? Aerial parts of the plants, especially the leaves. So during transpiration, water loss occurs from the aerial parts, especially the leaves of the plants, and water is lost in the form of water vapor, and it occurs by the process of evaporation. Okay, types of transpiration. On the basis of the outlet of plants through which water is lost, transpiration can be divided into 3 types. First is stomatal transpiration. So, what is a stomata? Stomata is a pore which is found in the outer membrane of the leaves, outer membrane or epidermis of leaves, stems and other organs of the plants, and sometimes through this stomata, and through this stomata when water loss occurs, then it is known as stomatal transpiration. It is the major and most common form of transpiration. Usually 90 to 95% transpiration occurs through this stomata. Next is cuticular transpiration. A plant cuticle is a protecting covering of the epidermis of leaves, young shoots and other aerial plant organs. So sometimes it is a covering of the aerial parts of the plant. Cuticle is a covering. It is made up of lipid and some hydrocarbon polymers. So when water loss occurs, so transpiration occurs through this cuticle, then it is known as cuticular transpiration. Then is a lenticular transpiration. So what is lenticel? Lenticel is the loose aggregation of cells which penetrates the surface of a woody plant and through which gases are exchanged between the atmosphere and the underlying tissues. So during secondary growth in plant, if you look carefully, the the stem of the plant bark is not smooth. You can see that there are some pores. These are lenticels, right? When water transpiration or water evaporation occurs through this lenticel, then it is known as lenticular transpiration. So here is the figure showing two types of two site of transpiration. First is stomata. This is the stomata. Stomata is the pore found in the epidermal cells, that means the outer layer of the leaf. This stomata is covered by two guard cells. This one and two, these are two guard cells, and through this water comes out in the form of vapor. Then this is the lenticel. You can see that so you can see that these are the loosely aggregated cells, and this is the pore through which water can come out. This is the lenticel. Okay. So next we're going to discuss about the significance of transpiration. Transpiration decreases water pressure of the plant body. So the amount of water that plant absorbs during absorption, very limited amount is used during photosynthesis. So due to transpiration, this water comes out of the plant body and thus decreases water pressure. Next, transpiration creates the right condition for endosmosis. Due to transpiration, water comes out from the plant, and therefore there is a deficiency of water, and the cell sap increases, the concentration of the cell sap increases, which facilitates the endosmosis or cell to cell osmosis, and thus water reaches up to the leaf. Then transpiration prevents plants from getting overheated. This is another important point. It keeps the plant moist and therefore does not let the plant get overheated. Then maintains proper humidity of the leaves. Next, transpiration maintains the rate of photosynthesis by ensuring continuous supply of water to the leaves. As I have already told you that transpiration, due to transpiration, endosmosis is facilitated or accelerated, and therefore we know that during photosynthesis endosmosis is important, and for this endosmosis water reaches up to the leaf, which ensures the rate of photosynthesis. Next, transpiration plays significant role in maintaining the water cycle. Due to transpiration, terrestrial plants convert land water into water vapors that go out in the atmosphere. So thus it helps in maintaining the water cycle. Then a huge amount of water is released in the in atmosphere in the form of water vapor during transpiration. These are all playing a very important role in maintaining the water cycle. Next, here is a point, which is transpiration is a necessary evil. from the previous discussion, we got to know how much significant transpiration is, but excess transpiration can be very harmful for plants, because it if a plant loses too much water from its body, and plant can suffer from water dehydration and therefore can die as well. So which is why transpiration is termed as a necessary evil, although it is necessary, but sometimes it can be evil as well. Okay, so that's all for today. I hope it was helpful for you, and if you have any question or queries, or if you could not understand anything, feel free to let me know. So I would really want you to utilize the time so that you can achieve the desired score in your upcoming exams. So yes, so all of you, please stay well, stay home, and that's all for today, and thank you very much for listening. Good luck.